What's up, marketers, and welcome to another episode of the Growth Colony podcast. I'm Liza from Xgrowth to tell you that each episode we bring in B2B leaders to chat about how you can achieve those everyday wins in the marketing world. Whether you're new to the B2B game, working at a leadership level, or even just showing some interest, we know you'll love the episode. So grab a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode. I'm Shaheen Hoda with Xgrowth, and today I'm talking to Steve Claydon and Darcy Smyth, co-founder and co-director at Outbound Game, and we're going to be talking about gamifying your enterprise go-to-market strategy. It's a little bit of a different topic than not as conventional, but I'm actually really excited to talk to both Steve and Darcy about the work that they do with clients, the work that they do in the B2B space, specifically around gamification. They've done a lot of work. So it's going to be a very exciting conversation. Steve and Darcy, thanks for coming on the show.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah,
thanks for having us.
Great to be here, mate. We've been looking forward to this pod for a while. So it's going to be a quality chat.
Same here. I'd love to dive in right at the beginning and talk about gamification in terms of like what do you mean by gamification, and what people should be expecting coming out of this podcast? Because when I first heard about it, I was like, what are we talking about? Is it like scoreboards for SDRs? Is it is that what we're talking about? So can you give a little bit of a description of what we're talking about when we say gamification in the B2B space?
Yeah, for sure. So a bit of our backstory, I suppose, and how we got ourselves into gamification, and I suppose the essence of what we're trying to create. Like, there is so many different schools of thought when it comes to game theory and gamification. Pretty much all of them have leaderboards. Pretty much all of them have some sort of badge. Some of them have a rewards mechanism. But our background was a bit unique. We kind of fell into being SaaS co-founders. It was a COVID idea. Our background was actually mostly working with enterprise sales teams around the world. And Darcy's background's all in psychology. My background's all in deal strategy. But we've always had a love of games ourselves. Darcy's a sports tragic, massive Sydney Swans fan. He turns everything into a game. I grew up playing board games, card games, video games, designing my own games. And when COVID hit and our business model was stuffed because we couldn't travel anymore, we used that as an opportunity to go, hey, why don't we try doing things a little bit differently here? Why don't we have a slightly different perspective on how we could potentially do training to begin with, but then actually implementing the training? That's what we always found was the biggest gap. So our school of thought around gamification really is it's just a sophisticated, smart, clever, fun way to do goal setting. And it's a way of breaking down goals into the smallest parts, what we call lead measures, the things that you can control, and forget about the lag measures, which pretty much every leadership team is always focusing on. How do we get more sales? How do we increase contract value? How do we increase close rates? They're all actually lag measures, but mostly to spend all their time just focusing on those. We're more interested in doing the exact opposite of that and really figuring out, how do we change behaviors? How do we change people's day-to-day activity to help them get that end goal? So for us, gamification is behavior change and goal setting, and those two things together. That's true gamification in our opinion. I think a glorified dashboard isn't true gamification. That's just a pretty way of, putting the sports score on the billboard, making it kind of look cool, where we're more interested in what's happening on the field, because that's what actually determines the scoreboard. So they're the two key points for us: goal setting and behavior management, essentially.
Let's dive into an example, because I think that is going to clarify things a lot more for the audience. I'm very keen to hear some examples, and I'm sure that is going to paint a little bit of a different picture for people who are listening. What will be the first example we can look at?
The best examples are teams that set themselves, say, like a North Star goal or big goal they want to achieve. And then what they do is they reverse engineer that goal into its lead measures, into its components that are going to lead to it. So for example, a team might go, we want to hit $2 million in sales this month. In order to do that, the things that we can control that we want to do is we want to do more outbound calls. We want to post more on LinkedIn or send out more LinkedIn messages. We want to say something different, like do personalized videos. Or we might want to start multi-threading on deals and including more team members on our deals, for example. So they look at that and they go, as long as we're doing more of those 4 things and we're hitting more lead measures and KPI targets around those 4 things, then we're more likely to hit our North Star goal at the end of the day. And so teams put that in place, gamify that, reward themselves with what we talk about in the Outbound game as coins for doing so, and then reward themselves with bonus coins when they hit their missions and goals around those KPIs to essentially get them towards that goal. Coolest examples we've had, I'll tell a couple of stories here. There was a team we were working with and we actually went to them on site. We actually drove up to Bundaberg in Queensland. Steve and I jumped in the car for 2.5 hours. They said, we want to run a full day outbound blitz. We want to run an outbound game blitz. So we jumped in and we decided upon the top sort of 5 activities they wanted to be doing more of. They wanted to be setting more meetings, doing more calls, etc., the usual stuff. And they said, but there's one thing that we have never done. And you guys have trained us about it for ages, but we've never done it. And that's personalized videos. So personalized video is simply, getting your phone up like a selfie video and going, hey, Shaheen, great to meet you. Would love to be on your podcast one day. Let me know what you think. Cheers, Darcy. Of course, just builds a lot more personalization between you and your prospect. And they'd never done one before. They might have tried 2 or 3 in the past. And we'd been talking to them about doing them for about 6 months because we said these are powerful. It's a good way to cut through. And so we gamified it. We put it in the blitz and we said, your goal today, guys, is, I think there was 10 of them in the room. We wanted them to do 5 each. So we set the goal at 50. Do 50 personalized videos today out to your prospect lists, out to your strategic partners, etc. And then by the end of that day, they had done, was it 125 personalized videos, Steve? I think was the number.
126.
126 in one day when they'd never done any before. As a result, they're getting tons of replies from their prospects, from their strategic partners. They're sending personalized videos back to them saying, I've never done this before, mate. This is great, etc. And it was just like, how cool is that? You never wanted to do one before because it was difficult and uncomfortable. Fair enough. But what if we gamify it? What if we make it fun? What if we make it a game that actually makes it sort of fun to embrace the discomfort of it because you're getting rewarded for it in the platform? And so that was one really cool example. Another cool example just in terms of... sorry, go ahead.
Darcy, sorry. On the back of that, maybe if you could unpack the gamification around it a little bit more, right?
Oh, totally.
Was there, because you talked about coins, you've talked about a few things there. Can you unpack that a little bit more? I totally understand that there was a goal that was set, 50 videos. We beat it by, what do we beat it by 76 or something like that, right? 86, 76, if I'm doing my math right. What was the process to get to that and making sure that we exceed the goal in that format?
Yeah, totally. So the way that the platform actually works, gamification works in many ways, but the way Outbound specifically works is you have a North Star goal that you want to achieve. For most sales teams, that is a revenue number, i.e. $1 million in a month, 500 grand in a month, a $20,000 day, whatever it may be. And then you reverse engineer from there the top activities that will actually help you achieve that goal. Like I said before, like outbound calls, booking meetings, etc. And then what you do is you go through each of those activities and you assign points to them or coins to them, with the more difficult or more uncomfortable or more valuable activities for the company being the ones that are rewarded with more coins. So for example, booking a meeting might be worth 10 coins, but doing an outbound call is only worth 2. If you do, 5 outbound calls, you get the equivalent of the same for booking one meeting, right? As you're doing more of those activities, you're collecting coins for doing those activities. Activities similar to when you go to the arcade, play all the games and collect all the tickets for every time you score. This is similar. You're doing outbound sales activity and getting rewarded with coins for doing so. Those coins are building up in a wallet as you go. Not like a crypto wallet or anything, just an outbound game wallet, right? We're not that cool yet, Shane. Still stuck in the year 2012. So that's what's happening. Then what happens is the team are rewarded with bonus coins for hitting their KPI missions and goals. So for example, you get 10 coins every time you book a meeting, but if you book 10 meetings, you're rewarded with 2,200 bonus coins. So it really rewards people for actually finally hitting their KPIs. And a lot of the bonus coins dropping is what drives a lot of the motivation and the behavior, which is really cool to see. So as a result, as I said, teams are going up on the leaderboard against each other, and we reward teams for 2 things. Number 1, you can do podium finishes. So whoever finished first at the end of the sprint gets a particular prize decided by the sales team leader. That might be, a Friday off or a bottle of whiskey or pizzas on a Friday for you and your small team or whatever it is. You can get pretty fun with that. Or we actually save up the coins similar to an arcade. We save up the coins in a outbound wallet where you can spend those coins on a reward of your choice. And the whole platform algorithmically decides how much a coin is worth based on the team's budgets, and then therefore how much they can spend on prizes they want. We've had, is it $1.2 million worth of prizes claimed through the platform now, Steve?
Yeah,
I think it is
1.3. Yeah, we just clocked 1.3.
1.3. So this is people getting, new kayaks, new barbecues, nice leather couches, holidays for their family. Like they built their own reward stores, and their sales leaders go, great, you want to collect the coins and do all that activity? If we get ahead of sales target, I'll buy you that kayak if you've got the coins in your wallet to pay for it. So
yeah,
that's ultimately how the platform works.
And it's all driven by a timer as well. Each game is driven by a timer, and so the only way you unlock your bonus coins for those KPI goals is to beat the clock, so to speak. So it creates natural urgency that, I've got 2 days to go. I'm currently sitting on, 47 out of 50 personalized videos. Often what happens in sales teams is like near enough is good enough, because there's no real incentive or motivation to get it done before the month runs out. Most of the time it's just based on revenue. But all of a sudden, if you're sitting on 47 out of 50 personalized videos with 2 days to go, 5,000 bonus coins on the line, and the mission resets back to 0 when the timer strikes out, all of a sudden team members feel the urge to get those last 3 videos done. And so that's what drives the self-motivation, so that the leader doesn't have to be like, come on guys, hit your number, we've got 2 days to go. It's they know it themselves, and they're looking at that timer consistently counting down, going red, giving warnings, and they're like, okay, I got to find that time to get those last few actions done.
I love it. One of the other examples that we spoke about previously was that you even gamified lunch and learns.
Yes.
Yeah, we were working with a company in Adelaide, and they do large projects, so their sales cycle is very long. It normally requires a lot of multi-threading, a lot of team members involved to do that, but they always just, again, struggled to get out of the office, order that Subway catering, get the calendar invites done and get people around the table to do some presentations and some learning. And so we set up a full day blitz for them and fired out an email to the list, with a basic hook of like, we want to be doing some of these lunch and learn sessions, just hit reply and we can jump on the phone and make it happen. And they went nuts. It just went crazy. They got that many replies that kind of just even, encouraged them, man, we should be offering this to our clients more often. And then over the next quarter, I can't remember the exact number, but it was easily more than 2 years worth of lunch and learns done in 90 days. And we find the best things to gamify are the things that take effort, because, we believe that most people in a sales environment, we're a bit like electricity. We follow the path of least resistance, which means we only ever do phone and email, and that's about it. But normally it's those other activities that require a bit of effort. We have a saying at Outbound that effort is the hack. So finding the things that take a bit of effort, but then making it rewarding and fun makes the biggest difference. And so they went off and jumped in boardrooms of some of the biggest Australian companies and had one lunch and learn that they sent a photo of. There was like 22 engineers in a room, and they're like, what? This is crazy. Like, how else can we get 22 high-level decision makers time? And it turns out it was a bit of Subway, a glass of whiskey, and a PowerPoint presentation.
And a bit of gamification.
So that's where we're really interested lately, is not just gamifying your activities, because that's pretty straightforward, like calls, emails, meetings booked, but starting to gamify behavioral change and the things that can shape focus. And that's the thing that we're finding is getting even better results than just gamifying your day-to-day KPIs. It's those things that take effort, the things that are uncomfortable, but the things that make a big difference. It seems that when you put it in a game, the fears start to disappear around it, and it's not such a big deal anymore. So that's something that's very interesting to us.
I want to touch on that effort component a little bit more, but can you maybe unpack what you mean by going a little bit deeper into this new area? Because it's not 100% clear for me in terms of the difference between there are the activities that you gamify, but the higher effort components. Maybe if there are a couple other examples of the calls and that stuff is the normal stuff, but the high effort stuff that we see work really well are these ones. What would that look like?
Yeah, big one that we're seeing a lot of traction in recently in a world of AI and digital bombardment is teams hitting it old school and putting together personalized packages that they lick a stamp on the corner of the thing and actually send it physical mail. It is ridiculous to cut through that physical mail, particularly if it's well thought of, it's personalized, it's something that is unique, gives the buyer an experience. Those things take effort. You have to go to the post office. You have to hand write a letter. You have to lick a stamp and chuck it on the corner of the box. All of those things take effort. It's so much easier just to run a chat AI bot and blast out 10,000 emails, but we're finding that the whole effort is the hack, is finding what the market is doing and then doing the exact opposite, hitting it old school sometimes. Like lunch and learns are old school, lumpy mail packages are old school, referral meetings and strategic partnership meetings, that's old school, but it's what's actually getting cut through in this current market. So yeah, they're the things that are interesting to us, but it's also like the behaviors, Shaheen. So like, we find that a lot of leaders come to us and they've got lone wolf salespeople. Their collaboration isn't very high because they feel it's just quicker and easier if I do it myself. You know what I mean? They're talented, so they're just like, I'll just do it myself. It's quicker and easier. Where leadership is saying, no, if we start to get more team members involved and have higher levels of collaboration, we're going to see new perspective and we're going to have, better results. But that takes effort too, to slow down, book an internal strategy meeting with a team member to collaborate on a deal. They're the things that we're even starting to gamify. So it's not just even outbound activity. It can be internal behaviors that a company wants to see. So we've got a team recently where they're incentivizing internal strategy meetings on their pipeline. So they book an hour on the calendar, they get 2 other teammates, and they thrash out strategy on a deal for an hour. And leadership's rewarding that, and collaboration goes through the roof, multi-threading goes through the roof, and they're getting way better results. So that's the stuff that we're really curious about. Yeah.
Where does the effort versus outcome breaks down? Because I would imagine there is a point that the effort is just too big, that the excitement and the psychological reward of a game doesn't pay off as much. There is, or you might say that there isn't. I'm curious to know, when you have really long 9-month, 12-month sales cycles, when you have, when that lift is too hard, have you seen a place that basically the effort breaks the system?
That's a great question.
Awesome question.
That has happened. It shows. I love that question. The best part about gamification is that it either works or it doesn't. And when it doesn't, you really get a clear indicator as to why. So for example, let's just say you've got a North Star goal of $1 million in a month. You've got your 5 activities and your team smashes all your goals on all of them. And you still don't hit the target. You fall at around about 760K, something like that. Well, what the game just showed you is that what you thought was the right strategy, i.e. those 5 activities, actually isn't it, because you did all of them, you hit all of your goals, and still it wasn't enough to actually reach your target. So it actually gives you that answer straight away. Same thing with when teams are using gamification, it absolutely sends them to that next level and builds a ton of momentum. But you really do start to learn, hey, where did our team fall down? Or which out of our top 5 activities did they do 4 of, but one of them just got completely ignored? You can see that through all the dashboards of the gamification. Just it's glaringly obvious to you. So the strategy almost presents itself, or the gaps in your strategy present themselves right there to you on a dashboard. We even had a conversation with a leader once. It was fantastic, Shane. It was so interesting, such a learning moment for us. We said, hey, how's the game? How's Outbound going in your company? And they said, oh, yeah, no, good. All going well. It's keeping us on target, doing all the do, which is great. We said, great, you've had any sort of learning strategically from it? They're like, oh, well, I'll just make up the name. I don't want to, I want to be respectful. But he goes, oh, yeah, interestingly enough, Johnny left last month. We said, oh, what do you mean? What happened? He goes, well, we started playing Outbound and he didn't like it. Okay, what happened? And so Steve and I look at each other just being like, oh, was this our fault that you lost a sales team member? Like, what's going on? And they're like, nah, mate, best thing that ever happened. He was quiet quitting like 6 months ago. We could see that he just wasn't motivated. His head wasn't here. We weren't getting out of him. We were overspending on this guy through the roof. Then when we brought in Outbound, it made everything quite visible. Everyone could see how's the team operating, who's up and down on the leaderboard, who's fallen way behind, who's not hitting targets. And once this guy was finally made visible to not actually really be doing any work, he thought it was best that he actually left the company. And we thought, great, yeah, right. Then that's a win for the guy. Obviously, he wasn't happy at the company. It's a win for you because you weren't getting much out of him. Everyone goes their separate ways, but the strategy revealed itself through gamification, which was fascinating. It was what'd you say call that, Steve? That's probably an an unexpected benefit of the platform. We never saw that conversation coming, I don't think.
I think we also had some learnings at the start where we would do sort of leadership onboarding calls, right? Where we would help them design the game and set the numbers and set the actions. And then we'd do a team onboarding call and introduce them to the game and how to play and how to win. But we did notice sometimes that if we didn't get the team involved early in the game design and game creation process, sometimes there was that like, oh, that's too much effort. That number's way too big. We'll never be able to hit it. And that belief just disappears immediately. So what we've done recently, probably for the last 6 to 12 months, is spend a lot more time actually getting the team involved in the design and the setup phase, getting them to nominate the top actions that they believe would make a big difference to their results, and also getting the team to almost come up with what those numbers should be. Because naturally, when they have a level of believability around it, it's like, yeah, we could hit that number. It'd be a stretch, but we could hit it. Gamification has a good outcome of overachievement because there's like even beyond rewards, right? So you don't want to just hit the goal. You want to stretch the goal. And so we hear it a lot that when you get the team involved and there's buy-in in that process, they're more, and you gamify it, they're more likely to actually bust past what they believe they could do. And then all of a sudden the minds start opening up of like, wow, there's a lot of potential here. Like, what could we be actually doing here? And I can't tell me how many times team members have said, oh, yeah, when we originally came up with that goal, we thought it would be impossible to do 100 videos, or we thought it'd be impossible to book that many lunch and learns. And then they get to the end of their sprint and they're like, wow, we actually did a lot more than we thought. But we've found the breakdown happens when a leader comes to their team and says, here's your numbers. They look at the numbers and go, whoa, they're big. And they almost quit before they start. So that was definitely a learning. We got that wrong at the start, where we did it in a traditional way where leaders give their team numbers as opposed to get the team to come up with the numbers and then stretch past those numbers into what is actually possible for them.
Let's create this game together style.
Yeah.
You've used the word team quite often. What is a team that is too small for what you're doing here, and what is a team that is too big? I would imagine that the upper side, there's not a lot of limit, but is there a place that it's like, it's only 2 people on the sales team and it's really hard to like get them going? I'm guessing it becomes even less stickier if it's like only one person who's running sales. How does that look like? The minimum kind of viable team member number?
Yeah.
Steve and I are a sales team of 2, and we're 2 of the most competitive lads get at each other's throats every month playing the game. Like, we have so much fun with it, but I don't know, we created the thing, so perhaps we're not the best use case. Yeah. To answer your question, 2 makes a game. It really does. We've worked with a number of teams with as little as 2 people, and they've had their fun. You got to remember, if you're rewarding it through the arcade style of collect all the tickets and get your rewards, the leaderboard is just there as a gimmick. It's actually not really there as any sort of podium finish and the winner gets this. So as long as they're collecting coins, then they're going to cash those coins in for prizes anyway. So the competitive nature isn't so much too bad there. Same thing with if you've got one player. If you've got one salesperson in the team and you create a game for them and say, hey, go for these, hit these numbers, hit your bonus coins, build up your wallet, and then, hey, if you get us ahead of sales target, you can claim it in the reward store. That form of gamification keeps them super focused. Where it probably doesn't work is if the player is paying for their own prizes themselves, because then they're like just rewarding themselves with their own money anyway. It's not like someone else is buying the prizes for them, if that makes sense. It works really well to keep them tracked and focused. That's totally fine. That works well. But the whole like reward side of it, it's probably missing an essence there that makes it really gun.
I would say like
interesting
in teams, like where it does start to get this nice blend of personal reward but competition is like if you've got a team of like 5 sellers or more, it starts to create a pretty cool dynamic, right? Because if you got 3 sellers, you're pretty much always on the podium no matter what you do. Like you can come dead last and you still come third, sort of thing. You know, token bronze medal. But as soon as you start going to 5, right, now all of a sudden the leaderboard, the podium means something. And then you don't want to be 4th or 5th, right? And so it creates a bit of a dynamic. We're also noticing this with teams that are like doing 10 or 20 people, if they're doing the podium finish style, big rewards for 1st, 2nd, 3rd, but then also strategically creating place rewards. So even if you're in the middle of the pack, there's competition to try and get up a little bit further in the middle of the leaderboard. And then there's nothing for like the bottom 20%. So they're always out, but they're always trying to get to the next run. We have seen or heard of people that have tried gamification or done their own blitzes in the past, and it was only rewards for like podium finish. You can find a team that's tracking in the middle. They believe they can never get to podium. They're too far behind. And then all of a sudden they get demotivated and stop because they're too far out. And so I'm really interested at the moment in that psychological dynamic of, regardless of where they are on the leaderboard, can you create like a next mini spot that they're trying to get to in the middle of the leaderboard, and then creating tension in every part. And I think that's really starting to work well. Like bottom 20%, you get nothing. If you place, you get a small token. If you get bronze, pretty decent. Silver, pretty damn good. Gold, wow, that was sick. That I got really rewarded for being a top finisher. So yeah, that's something that we've been playing around with lately in our platform, is not just having just podium rewards, but also place rewards. And that's working quite well.
How do you deal with senior sales team members? You know, people who are like, I don't want to deal with this. Get this out of my way. You know, I need to close these enterprise deals, yada, yada, yada. I think you know the persona.
Totally know the persona.
How do you do it?
We call them Ron. There's a Ron in every. Ron. He's the 80-year-old guy. He's been selling for ages. Yeah, we know.
How do you deal with the Rons?
You love it, mate. So we have a philosophy at Outbound Game that if anyone is forced to play, then it's no longer a game. We also have the philosophy that if you're 70% in, you're out. Meaning, if you want to play a game, you play the game well. If you and I were going to go play one-on-one basketball, Shaheen, and I was 100% in, but you were 50% in, and the other 50% of the time you're just replying to text messages or whatever, it's hardly a game anymore. We might as well have just not played, or I might as well have gone found a new partner to play with, right? So we're pretty intent on that. And we suggest that if you are in this, you're 100% in. But if you're any percent out, just don't play. It's never like it's not in any sort of vicious way or anything like that. It's just like, this just isn't a game. You just don't want to play the game. That's totally fine. You just won't collect the coins for your activity, and you won't be able to buy a reward store with them or anything like that as well. So you choose that. That's totally fine. The reason for that is because play needs to be voluntary. And the more the play is voluntary, the better the result everyone gets. As a result of that, two things often happen. Number one, either Ron usually actually opts in at that point and goes, actually, no, fair enough. Good call, boys. I respect that. That sounds good. I'll jump in. I'll give this a go. Or they hear it and go, fair enough. I appreciate that. You know what? It's actually not for me. I'm just going to go close my deals, and thanks very much. And that'll do. Usually what happens is after, say, 30 days of the rest of the team playing, and they're claiming some prizes, like, Johnny's rocking up with a new Apple Watch the next month, and, Sally's got a new pair of nice Aaron Williams boots and all of this. All of a sudden, Ron in the corner goes, I could have had that, and so then they actually end up jumping in the next sprint. That has happened quite often, and they're always welcome back with open arms. That's for sure, because the more players, the merrier. We love Ron jumping in. It's awesome.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's such an important part. Like, we recommend to anyone starting in gamification is to try and complete that reward center loop as quickly as you can. So some teams like to run their game over a 90-day cycle. That's good for longer term, but we always recommend starting off with like a mini sprint, a full day blitz, something short, get the team to do all the activity and actually tangibly get a reward out of it in the shortest amount of time. Because once the player recognizes, this is real, like the arcades, like, I actually just exchanged some tokens for that lollipop or whatever it is. It's like, that's real. I just got something out of this. All of a sudden, the motivation goes to a whole new gear as well. So sometimes starting with a smaller game, simple game, smaller budget, but quicker payout can mean that people start to realize that it's real. And then as soon as they start to realize it's real, not just some gimmick, they normally get cracking pretty hard on the next sprint.
Shane,
Stephen Darcy.
Sorry, Shane, real quick. You've asked some cracking questions here, like questions that show that you probably have some good experience of, clear experience of sales and marketing teams, obviously. How did you not ask that question? I'm curious. Like, have you experienced that yourself as well in terms of implementing change with companies and some people sitting around the corner not wanting it to happen, etc.?
We are in that space as well, right? Like, we do a fair bit of work in sales and marketing functions and in tech organizations. So we do come across it quite often. So it's very interesting to hear some of these strategies and things that you've put in place. If someone is listening to this, let's say a sales leader, someone who deals with the sales team, and they're like, I love it, and I want to maybe do a elementary version of this and implement this with my team. what would be your advice to them? How should they go about doing it?
Yeah, we're pretty excited actually. We're just about to launch a free version of the platform called Outbound Blitz, and it's specifically designed for either a 1 hour power hour right through to a 48-hour sprint. That's it. Really simple. So you can either gamify an hour or you can gamify 2 days. And that sort of came out of necessity because we realized that people going from no experience in gamification to the full version, Outbound Pro, fully embedded, integrated with their CRMs, the whole kit and caboodle, it's quite a big leap for people. And they're like, well, that's a lot to even think about. That's a lot to implement. So me and Das put our heads together and said, well, what if we made a really simple version that gives an introduction to gamification? It's Outbound Blitz. It's really simple, 1 hour to 48 hours. You select your top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 activities, and it's purely a podium finish or a place finish. And the team just go ham for a very short amount of time, get focused on the key activities, and it's very much based on a leaderboard, so it drives them to compete in a short and fast and fun way. And we noticed that's actually been the best way for us to actually sell our platform, is to give people a small taste of it, to run a blitz, to get a day, to get 2 hours in and go, wow, we just got pretty competitive. We just did a whole lot more in 2 hours than we normally do in 2 days. That's pretty powerful stuff. And then that normally is what, leads to the next stage of, all right, what CRM are you using? What are the key actions we need to integrate? What are the key, time periods? What are the bigger goals? And that's normally the way to get started. So we're really pumped. We're literally, by the time this podcast comes out, I'm not sure when you're launching, it'll be done.
Outbound Blitz.
Outbound Blitz, yeah.
Fantastic. Check that out. Okay. I have some rapid fire questions that I want to go through as well.
I love this.
And let's make it happen. So the first question, and I'd love to get each of your answers. First question I have is, what is one resource, book, a talk, a blog, whatever it is, that has had a fundamental impact on the way that you work or live? Let's go with Darcy first.
Great. I'm going to recommend here. I was about to say, I will recommend this book. It's a book called Predatory Thinking by Dave Trott. Dave is one of the UK's greatest branders, I would say. Very, very smart man. Predatory Thinking is like a book of like 2 to 3 page mini stories that just change the way you view your perspective on life. And there's around about 50 little 2 to 3 page stories in there. And they are just, some of them are so funny. Some of them are so clever. Some of them are just downright, that makes so much sense. How did I never see that way before? It is brilliant. Really good. Strongly recommend. The second thing I was going to say, but I won't, I was going to take a bit of an angle. I was going to say, read To Kill a Mockingbird. It's the greatest book ever, and it'll just inspire you just in general. But I think we'll stick with business. Yeah, that'd be good.
Steve, what about you?
I'm going to go with a slightly different angle here. I had a LinkedIn post that just went nuts, went mega viral. I had like 16,500 comments on it. And I made a conscious decision that I wasn't going to use AI or a bot to reply to everyone. I wanted to like personally respond to every single person. Now that took like 50 hours, but I came across this really gun little app called TextExpander. And what you can do with TextExpander is you can upload all of the snippets, all of the little links that you normally need to send people to, like all of the things that you repeat yourself saying over and over again. And then you can create just like a really simple Z command. So like I use ZA, ZQ, ZP for proposal, Z exclamation mark, just 2 letters. And you can be in any screen. You can be in a Word document, to LinkedIn, to email, to HubSpot, to anywhere. And it automatically pops in that snippet. So you don't have to be copying, pasting, or anything like that. That one simple app has saved me, I don't know how many thousands of hours just by not having to remember, what link was it again? Trying to go to bookmarks and all that sort of stuff. Just remembering little Z prompts. It's gone. I love it. So TextExpander.
TextExpander it is. All right, second question. Let's go with second question. If you could give one advice to B2B salespeople, what would it be? Darcy, let's go with you first.
Understand your market before you do anything else. Your ability to know how your buyers think, what they actually want versus what they say they want, understanding how they operate, understanding their world and really empathizing with their world to the nth degree, as far as you can go, before actually creating your product and before actually making pitches will save your life in B2B sales. It's that classic adage. I can't remember who said it. Might have been Edison, might have been Einstein. I can't remember. Said if I had 10 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 9 sharpening my axe. I think it speaks directly to that in the B2B marketing and sales world.
Yeah, love that. Mine would be to live by a principle which I call the sample size of 40. So I find that a lot of B2B sellers can be trying new approaches, trying to get creative, trying to stand out from the pack. They might try something or attempt something 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then they judge themselves on their results or non-results and then give up. I have this rule or a principle that I live by where you don't judge yourself, nor you judge anyone else until you've got a sample size of 40. Do something 40 times. And then at the end of that, absolutely, you can tear it to bits and you can rip it apart, or you can find what to make better. But I just live by this process of do it 40 times and then judge. And then all of a sudden you give yourself a bit more room. For example, LinkedIn. Might be a lot of B2B sellers on here that aren't posting any content. They're not producing their own content on LinkedIn. So they do 3 posts and it gets no engagement. And they're like, see, LinkedIn's a waste of time. And you're like, no. Let's get that up to 40 posts and then you can judge. And it just gives you some space to just try things without the fear of failure.
The rule of 40. I love it.
40, yeah.
I love it. Let's talk about kind of influencers and thought leaders that you follow. Who are some of the people that you keep an eye on, Darcy?
I'm a big Hormozi fan. Really like Alex Hormozi's stuff. He really inspired me around marketing again. I'm a big sales guy. I love sales. My background's all psychology of sales. I love selling, the actual act of conversational selling. I think it's so much fun and you can have such an impact. But that piece that was always missing before it, i.e. marketing, I never really delved into much. And so probably over the last 12 months, I've been devouring a lot of his stuff and really enjoying it. And then another man, Shaheen, who I actually know, I think you've had him on your podcast, is Dan Priestley. Have you had Dan on your podcast?
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about that. But, his stuff and who he is as a person, I just really, really gel with him and how grounded he is and just how straight down the line and matter of fact he is about why things work and why they don't. And he also has that sort of, he's got that book Oversubscribed, which also includes a good dose of psychology of why the way people buy through urgency, emotion, and logic. I just, love it. So I'm devouring a lot of Dan Priestley stuff right now as well. I'm super jealous you've had him. I'm almost fanboying over you because you've had him on your podcast. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Good.
Nah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Steve, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm similar. I'm a big Dan Priestley fan at the moment. I think he's such a sound, practical thinker. Puts complex ideas into simple frameworks. I'm a big fan of that. Bit of an out of box one. I actually study this guy. Sam Ovens is his name. Hormozi actually just invested into his company school. But funnily enough, I spent 3 days with Sam Ovens in Melbourne. We went to a Jordan Belfort seminar when we were both just starting out in business, 9 years ago or wherever it was. And this is before Sam did anything. He was living in Auckland before he did consulting.com and now school. And he was just always an alien to me. Like the way he thought, the way he did not care about other people's opinions, the way he would disrupt, the way he would overinvest in something because he was just could see that many patterns. I just think he's a really interesting entrepreneur just to follow in terms of just the way he thinks. He has pretty much no personality. Like there's no charisma, but what he says is true. And so I've been following him for years and probably from seeing him go from zero to where he is today. Unbelievable entrepreneurial journey. But I think Sam Ovens has a lot of good things to say, and he doesn't release a lot of content. He's more like a hermit like that. But when he does speak, it's pretty powerful stuff that you can learn a lot from.
Amazing. Last question. What's something that excites you about B2B today?
Something that excites me about B2B today. I'm really excited to watch how the more AI emerges, ironically, the more human touch will be valued. So the more automated something becomes, the more valuable it is when you don't automate it. Does that make sense? So if I can fire out an email blast to 10,000 people literally with the click of a button, well, if I don't do that and go and shake your hand in person at your office and introduce myself, it goes infinitely further with each day that AI emerges even further. So I'm really interested to watch those two worlds separate and watch how value is passed from one to another and how human beings actually value each other. The thing here is this: human beings, we are creatures that need human connection. Humans need human connection, and that'll never go away so long as we are human being. So this whole idea of AI taking over relationships and taking over sales, etc., I believe the exact opposite is going to happen. The more AI emerges, the more the human touch will actually be valued. So I'm looking forward to watching that unfold.
That's awesome. Steve,
Yeah,
what about from your side?
I think the future of B2B and where some real innovation is going to come is through strategic partnerships. And I think in a world where like cut through is a little bit harder, direct customer acquisition is a little bit harder, partnerships is something that I think a lot of SMBs are really starting to think about is, okay, our zone of genius is this, your zone of genius is that. Hey, is there a project that we could collaborate on in the middle and make something really unique? So I think B2B sellers that are focusing on strategic partnerships will dominate over the next 5 years. And I think the barrier to entry around innovation is going to be low. And so I'm really pumped for B2B sellers hanging out with other B2B sellers and going, okay, we've got the same direct market here, but we do very different things. Why don't we really come up with a little project here that we could spearhead, and it's revolutionary to our industry. So I'm keen to see a lot more collaboration. I believe we always progress through collaboration, not competition. Ironically enough, we make a game based on competition, but really at the end of the day, it's collaborative, right? They're all heading to the same North Star goal. It's just we want to get better together and we want to outdo each other in that. So I'm pumped about the world of partnership, innovation, bespoke projects, people's zones of genius coming together. I think that's really going to be interesting for me.
Yeah, there's a lot happening in that space. So there's a lot of exciting stuff happening there. But Stephen Darcy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. If somebody is interested in finding out more or getting more information, what's the best place that they can reach you?
Yeah, if they go straight to outbound.game, you'll be able to sign up for Blitz for free. You can create an account. You can set up your first 1 hour or 48-hour Blitz, click of a couple of buttons, and you're good to go. If you want to connect with us personally, just search Steve Claydon on LinkedIn. You'll see it popped up, and then Darcy J. Smyth on LinkedIn as well. That's where we're most active online. Personally, is definitely LinkedIn.
Amazing. Well, thank you both of you for coming on the podcast. This was an amazing conversation. A lot of insights, a lot of golden nuggets, and looking forward to connecting more.
Thanks for having us, man. Really appreciate it.
Today's episode of Growth Colony was produced by Alexander Hipwell and Liza Maywald. It was edited by Dave Samito with additional editing by Liza Maywald and music arrangement by Alexander and Liza. Special thanks to Tina Wabe. We couldn't make the show without you. Growth Colony is hosted by Shaheen Hoda, Director of Growth at Xgrowth. If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe and give us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Do you think you'd be a great guest or just keen for a chat? Send through an email at podcast@xgrowth.com.au. That's podcast@xgrowth.com.au. That's all for now. We'll catch you next week, right here on Growth Colony.